When your heart stops beating, you will stand in a room you never knew existed. It is not a place of clouds or golden gates. It is not a courtyard of judgment with scales and fire. It is a room of silence. And in that silence, I will show you something you spent your entire life trying to forget. Every word you ever spoke, every syllable that left your mouth, every whisper, every shout, every careless sentence you threw into the air, thinking it would dissolve into nothing. It did not dissolve. It was recorded, not by machines, not by men, but by the eternal memory of existence itself. And now, in this room, you will hear it all again, not as background noise, not as distant echo, but as if you are speaking it right now in this very moment for the first time and the last time. You will hear your voice as I heard it, every tone, every intention, every hidden motive beneath the surface of your words, and you will understand finally what you could not understand on earth. Words are not temporary. They are eternal. They do not fade when the conversation ends. They remain. They shape. They build. They destroy. And every single one of them will be played back to you in the silence of eternity. This is not punishment. This is revelation. You will not be condemned by what you said. You will be confronted by it. Because on earth, you lived as if words were cheap, as if they cost you nothing, as if you could speak without consequence, without weight, without memory. But I tell you now, every word you spoke carried the weight of your soul, and your soul remembers. Even when your mind forgot, your soul recorded. It stored the truth of what you meant, what you felt, what you intended. And now, in this room, that truth will be unveiled. You cannot hide behind tone. You cannot soften the blow with context. You cannot say, I didn't mean it that way, because I will show you exactly how you meant it. I will play back not just the words, but the energy behind them, the anger you masked as concern, the jealousy you dressed as advice, the pride you disguised as humility, the cruelty you justified as honesty. All of it will be laid bare, and you will hear it, not through my voice, but through your own. This is why silence was sacred on earth. This is why I called my chosen ones into solitude, not to punish them with loneliness, but to teach them the power of restraint, to show them that not every thought must become a sentence, not every feeling must be voiced, not every reaction must be spoken. The world taught you to speak quickly, to respond immediately, to defend yourself loudly, but I taught you to be still, to listen before you speak, to weigh your words before you release them, because words once spoken cannot be unspoken. They travel, they land, they create, and what they create will outlive you. You will stand in this room and you will hear the words you spoke to your children, the impatient tone when they needed your presence, the harsh correction when they needed your grace, the dismissive response when they needed your attention. You will hear it all, and you will feel what they felt, not as a distant memory, but as an immediate experience. You will know the weight of every careless word you dropped on their hearts. You will hear the words you spoke to your spouse, the silent treatments disguised as peace, the passive accusations hidden in questions, the coldness wrapped in politeness. You will hear the words you spoke in anger and called it just being honest. You will hear the words you withheld in love and called it protecting yourself. And you will see that what you thought was strength was actually fear. What you thought was wisdom was actually pride. What you thought was harmless was actually wounding. You will hear the words you spoke about others when they were not present, the gossip you called concern, the criticism you called discernment, the judgment you called truth. Every word you whispered behind closed doors will echo in this room. Every assumption you made will be exposed. Every lie you believed about another person will be corrected. And you will see that the person you spoke against was also my child, loved by me, seen by me, protected by me, and your words, though they could not touch their destiny, revealed the condition of your own heart. You will hear the words you spoke to yourself, the inner dialogue you thought no one could hear, the self-hatred you repeated like a mantra, the lies you told yourself about your worth, the comparisons that poisoned your peace, the doubts that drowned your faith. All of it will be spoken aloud in this room. And you will realize that the cruelest words you ever spoke were not to others, they were to yourself. You will hear the words you spoke about me, the moments you praised me in public but doubted me in private, the prayers you prayed with your lips while your heart remained distant, the times you used my name to manipulate others, the times you quoted my word but ignored my voice. I will not be angry, but you will be confronted, because you will see that I never needed your defense. I never needed your performance. I only wanted your honesty, your surrender, your trust. And instead, you gave me religious language without relationship. You gave me ritual without intimacy. You spoke about me, but you did not speak to me. And now, in this room, you will understand the difference. This room is not designed to shame you. It is designed to complete you. Because on earth, you lived in fragments. You spoke one way to some and another way to others. You presented different versions of yourself depending on the audience. You said what was acceptable, not what was true. You hid behind words, using them as shields instead of bridges. But here, there are no audiences. There is only truth. And truth does not allow division. It does not allow pretense. It demands wholeness. So you will hear every word, and in hearing it, you will finally meet yourself. Not the version you wanted to be, not the image you projected, but the person you actually were. The one who spoke when silence would have been wiser. The one who stayed silent when words were needed. The one who used language as a weapon when it was meant to be a gift. And in that meeting, you will face a choice you could not make on earth. Will you accept what you hear? Will you own the truth of what you said and why you said it? Or will you try even here to defend yourself, to explain, to justify? I tell you, there is no defense in eternity. There is only acknowledgement, and those who acknowledge will be set free. Not because their words were perfect, but because they stopped pretending they were. They stopped hiding. They stopped performing. They stood in the light of their own voice and said, yes, that was me, and I was wrong. That is the moment when transformation becomes complete. That is the moment when the weight of every careless word is lifted. Not because the words disappear, but because you finally take responsibility for them. On earth, you had the chance to do this. You had the chance to listen to yourself, to reflect, to repent, to speak with intention instead of impulse. But most of you did not. You filled the silence with noise. You filled your days with distractions. You avoided the quiet because the quiet forced you to hear yourself. And hearing yourself was terrifying because deep down, you knew. You knew your words were not always kind. You knew your tone was not always gentle. You knew your silence was not always peaceful. You knew, and you avoided the knowing. But here, in this room, there is no avoidance. There is only encounter. You will hear your laughter when someone else was hurting. You will hear your sarcasm when encouragement was needed. You will hear your excuses when accountability was required. You will hear your complaints when gratitude was due. You will hear your fear disguised as logic. You will hear your control disguised as care. You will hear your pride disguised as strength. And you will realize that I heard it all the first time. I was there when you spoke. I was present in every conversation. I witnessed every whisper, and I did not interrupt. I did not stop you because I gave you the freedom to choose your words. I gave you the power to create with your mouth, and you created. Some of you created beauty. You spoke life into the weary. You built others up with your encouragement. You offered words of hope when despair was thick. You chose kindness when cruelty would have been easier. You remained silent when defending yourself would have caused division. And those words, too, will be played in this room. And when you hear them, you will weep, not with shame, but with recognition. Because you will finally understand that those moments, those words, were the truest version of who you were. They were the moments when you aligned with me, when you spoke not from ego, but from spirit, when you used your voice not to wound, but to heal. And I will say to you, these words remain. These words are eternal. These words reflect my heart. But for many, the room will be heavy because most of your words were not aligned. Most of your words were reactive, defensive, selfish, careless. And now you must hear them, not to be punished, but to understand, to see clearly what you could not see on earth, that words are not neutral. They are not meaningless. They are not just words. They are containers of intent. They are carriers of energy. They are expressions of the soul. And your soul spoke through your mouth every day of your life. This is why the tongue is called untamable. This is why Scripture warns that life and death are in the power of your words. This is why I told you that every idle word will be accounted for. Not because I am harsh, but because words matter. They matter more than you believed. They matter in ways you could not comprehend while you were alive. And now, in the stillness of eternity, you will comprehend. You will sit in this room and you will listen. There will be no fast forwarding, no skipping, no excuses, just you, your voice, and the truth. And when the last word has been spoken, when the final sentence echoes and fades into silence, I will look at you and I will ask one question. Did you mean it? Not did you regret it? Not do you wish you could take it back? But did you mean it? Because that is what matters. Not whether you spoke perfectly, but whether you spoke honestly, whether your words matched your heart, whether your mouth revealed your soul. And if your answer is yes, if you can stand before me and say, yes, I meant what I said. I owned my anger. I owned my pain. I owned my doubt. I did not hide behind politeness. I did not fake humility. I spoke from where I was, even when where I was not pretty. Then I will say to you, you were real, and I can work with real. But if you cannot answer, if you realize that most of your words were performance, were masks, were manipulation, then you will finally see what you lost. Not me, not heaven, but yourself. Because you spent your entire life speaking, and you never once said what you truly meant. You never once let your real voice be heard, and now it is too late to go back. The room of words is not hell, it is clarity. It is the place where all pretending ends, where all hiding stops, where the truth of who you were is fully revealed. And some will leave that room lighter, because they finally stopped carrying the weight of their own lies. They finally stopped defending themselves. They finally admitted what they always knew. Their words were not always right, but at least they were real. Others will leave that room heavier because they will realize they spent their entire lives speaking and said nothing true. They performed, they pleased, they manipulated, they controlled, and in doing so, they silenced the only voice that mattered, their own. So I ask you now, while you are still breathing, while you still have time, what are you saying? What words are you scattering into the world? Are they true? Are they kind? Are they necessary? Or are they just noise? Are they just reactions? Are they just weapons you use to protect yourself from being seen? Speak carefully, speak honestly, speak less, because every word you say is being recorded, not by me in judgment, but by existence itself in truth. And one day you will stand in that room, and you will hear it all, and you will finally understand words are not cheap, they are eternal. In this room, time does not move the way it moved on earth. You do not experience minutes or hours. You experience the weight of eternity pressing against every syllable you ever uttered. And in that weight, you will discover something most people never understood while they were alive. Your words did not belong to you. They belonged to the world you released them into. When you spoke harshly to a stranger, those words did not end when the conversation ended. They traveled. They entered that person's spirit. They changed the trajectory of their day, perhaps their week, perhaps their life, and you never thought about it again, but they did. They carried your words like stones in their chest, and now you will feel the weight of those stones, not as punishment, but as reality. You will feel what they felt. You will know what you caused. Not to condemn you, but to awaken you to the power you wielded and never honored. This is why I spoke so carefully when I walked among you. Every word I gave was measured. Every sentence was intentional, because I understood what you did not. Words are not just sounds, they are seeds, and every seed you plant will grow. Some will grow into trees of life. Others will grow into thorns that choke, and the one who planted them will see the harvest. Not in punishment, but in truth. You will see the person you encouraged, who went on to encourage thousands because you spoke life into them at their lowest moment. You will see the child you believed in, who became a leader because your words gave them permission to dream. You will see the friend you forgave, who learned to forgive themselves because your words released them from shame. And you will weep with joy, because you will finally understand that your words were not wasted. They were seeds of eternity. They rippled beyond your sight, beyond your lifetime, into the lives of people you will never meet on earth, but will recognize in this room. But you will also see the opposite. You will see the person you mocked, who believed your words and never recovered their confidence. You will see the child you criticized, who internalized your disappointment and lived beneath their potential. You will see the spouse you dismissed, who stopped believing they were worthy of love because your words told them they were not enough. And you will weep with sorrow, not because I am angry with you, but because you will finally see what you could not see before. You had the power to build, and you used it to tear down. You had the power to heal, and you used it to wound. And now, the harvest of those words stands before you. This is the room of reckoning, not because I am keeping score, but because truth keeps its own record. And in the presence of truth, nothing can be hidden. Nothing can be reframed. Nothing can be excused. You will hear the words you said in secret, believing no one would ever know. The lies you told to protect your image. The half-truths you shared to manipulate outcomes. The promises you made and never kept. The vows you broke without remorse. And you will realize that secrecy was an illusion. I was always there. I always heard. And now so will you. You will hear the conversations you had with yourself in the mirror. The names you called yourself, the identity you rejected, the worth you denied. And I will ask you, why did you speak to yourself this way? Why did you treat my creation with such contempt? You are mine. I formed you. I breathed life into you, and you spent your entire existence speaking death over yourself. You agreed with every lie the enemy whispered. You amplified every insecurity. You rehearsed every failure until it became your identity. And in this room, you will see how deeply those words wounded not just you, but me. Because when you spoke against yourself, you spoke against my design. You called ugly what I called beautiful. You called worthless what I called priceless. You called broken what I called whole. And now you will hear it all, and you will understand why I was silent. Not because I agreed with you, but because I was waiting for you to stop. I was waiting for you to hear my voice instead of your own condemnation. I was waiting for you to believe me more than you believed the lies. But many of you never did. You spent your entire lives at war with yourselves. And now, in this room, the war is over. But the cost is clear. You will hear the words you never said, the apologies you withheld, the gratitude you swallowed, the love you felt but never voiced, the truth you knew but never spoke. And you will realize that silence, too, was a choice. A choice that shaped lives just as powerfully as the words you did speak. You will see the parent who longed to hear you say, I love you, but you were too proud to speak it. You will see the friend who needed to hear you say, I was wrong, but you were too stubborn to admit it. You will see the stranger who needed to hear you say, you are not alone, but you were too distracted to notice. And you will weep for the words you should have spoken but did not. Because silence is not neutral. Silence is not safe. Silence in the moments when words were needed was a form of abandonment. And now you will see who you abandoned, who you left alone, who you withheld life from because you were afraid of being vulnerable. And I will ask you, what were you so afraid of? What were you protecting? Your pride, your image, your comfort. And was it worth it? Was it worth the love you never expressed? Was it worth the relationships you never restored? Was it worth the life you never spoke into existence? This is the question you will face in this room, not because I demand an answer, but because you will demand it of yourself. You will see, finally, that the life you lived was shaped by the words you spoke and the words you refused to speak. And you cannot go back. You cannot redo the conversations. You cannot unsay what was said. You cannot say what was left unspoken. The record is complete. The harvest is visible. The truth is undeniable. And in that truth, you will make a choice. Will you accept it? Will you own it? Will you acknowledge that you and only you were responsible for the words that came out of your mouth? Or will you even here try to blame others, blame circumstances, blame your pain? I tell you, pain does not excuse cruelty. Woundedness does not justify wounding. You had a choice. Every single time. And you chose the words you spoke. You chose the tone you used. You chose the silence you kept. And now you will live with those choices, not in torment, but in clarity, because eternity is not about hiding from who you were. It is about fully becoming who you are. And who you are is the sum of every word you ever spoke, every intention you ever held, every truth you ever revealed or concealed. This is why I warned you. This is why I told you to guard your heart, for out of it flows the wellspring of life. This is why I told you that your words would justify you or condemn you, not because I wanted to threaten you, but because I wanted to prepare you. I wanted you to understand that words are the currency of eternity. They are how you build your inner world. They are how you shape your outer world. They are how you connect with me. And every word you speak is a choice to create or destroy, a choice to heal or harm, a choice to reveal truth or perpetuate lies. And in this room, every choice you ever made with your words will be laid before you. So I say to you now, while you still have breath, while you still have time, speak carefully, speak truthfully, speak kindly. And when you do not know what to say, be silent, because every word you speak is a seed. And one day you will stand in this room and see the full harvest. And you will finally know yourself as I have always known you.